Welcome to the fourth episode of the Head versus Heart podcast, where we talk about punting, footy, and Supercoach from an emotional and analytical perspective. So, first of all, let's get into all our accountability for this week. Last week. To start off with, I got 1 from 8. Not great, but thanks to bonus bets, I'm up $25. How about you, Hart? Sorry, how about you, Head?
Yeah. Sorry for my bets. I went 3 out of 5, bit better than last week. Total profit on the bets posted, if you just followed those bets, would have been $281.80. My total profit for the week was $365.11 due to some other bets placed in my spreadsheet, which if you aren't already following, you should be following now, especially since for this week, spoilers, I've already posted some bets in there and the line's already pushed out on those bets. So you should be following the spreadsheet if not already. But yeah, so total of $365.11, or if you just followed the bets on the pod, $281.80. Also, we had the one side bet of the week. That was the Manly Penrith game. I think we went either plus 4.5 or plus 2.5, either way. Both
Yeah, on the line.
those
It
were,
doesn't matter anyway because Manly won by what, 20 something points.
yeah.
Yeah, so I concede defeat on that one. I think I've lost pretty badly. Did we ever work out what that side bet was going to be?
I don't think we ever confirmed what that was going to be, but I think we'll just for now keep a running tally until we figure something out. So it's
Uh,
currently 2-1 to myself in the side bets. We'll figure out what the forfeit's going to be as we go. As always, leave a comment for punishments for those side bets.
And
Uh,
please stop asking each other to asking us to bum each other. It's not happening.
yeah, we're not recreating the Drake video or anything like that. Yeah, so let's jump into each specific game now for accountability. The first game of the round was the Storm Broncos. The Storm won 34-32. Personally, I had the Storm 1-12 in this one. So that one got up for myself there, but it was a great game of footy and very interesting to watch. What about yourself? How'd you go in this one?
Yeah, I had Broncos head to head, and I kind of thought at 279 that wasn't quite enough value for me. So I personally also had a Jesse Arthurs onto as well. I think I got like $4 or $5 odds, and I was absolutely fuming with that result. There was the possibility, I don't know why they did it, but I think they're up by about 4 points at one point. They went for the two instead of, trying to pile on and get that extra try. But no, sometimes these things happen. You can't really help it.
Yeah, and with the Adam Reynolds out there as well, he was on the field. They might have made a better decision. So yeah, the Broncos easily could have won that game, and I'm glad I took the Storm 1-12 and not the Storm line.
Yep,
Uh,
very
moving
lucky
on,
there. Very lucky there.
yeah, moving on to the next game, Bulldogs Roosters. Bulldogs went off to that really early, massive start.
Yeah, they were 18 points ahead, and then
Yeah,
of course, like very early on, and then the game was completely ruined when Dom Young just elbowed it, basically knocked out Blake Taft cold, which
yeah,
completely ruined the Roosters' chance of coming back. But they still did, which is really strange.
yeah. They had Young and Tedesco out, and Walker, and they still found a way to come back. I think
Yeah,
for them, it's a lot of like when Kiri plays without the other half, or when Walker plays without. So when Kiri and Walker don't play together, they somehow seem to do a lot better. But yeah, so for myself, I had the Roosters minus 8.5, which obviously didn't win. But it was annoying that this game sort of played out the way that it did because you can't really get a good read on where both of these teams are out with the injuries that occur.
yeah,
Uh,
definitely. Look, the
yeah,
way
so
I see it, sorry, the way I see it with games like this is you just have to be happy you've lost because that is some amazing footy. Like, even though it didn't go the way you wanted it to, I would not wish this game went any other way because that was incredible to watch.
I wish there wasn't as many injuries and
Okay, well,
send
but the fact
offs.
that Bulldogs put 26 unanswered points on the Roosters was insane.
Yeah, the start of that game was definitely fun to watch, but yeah, maybe not the injuries and send offs and stuff in the game,
You're saying
but
you don't want the Biff back.
well, not running out of the line and basically coat hangering someone.
Okay, but
It's,
was it all worth seeing Dom Young shirtless though? 'Cause that's what's going around the internet right now, and I'm kind of
true.
thinking, is a 3 week suspension really worth knowing that you've got a massive rig?
Yeah,
I
true.
think it
He
probably
probably
is actually.
he probably copped the suspension in that week
Yeah,
in that point just to get his rig out. So he's probably not complaining.
definitely.
Um, Yeah, but weird game. What was your bet in that game?
So
Betting
it doesn't
loss.
really matter. It didn't get up, but I
Yeah.
had Roosters 13 plus, Joey Manu anytime, and Con Dominic Young double
Yeah.
20.
So missed as well, similar to mine with the most
Yeah,
missed. I think every week we go the same sort of bet. Like we went the Raiders
yeah,
last week, it hasn't been winning. So maybe that's a sign when we both
yeah.
got the
Maybe
same.
we need to start betting against each other, just so at least one of us wins.
Yeah. Um, Next game was the Knights game.
Yeah,
Great
so
for the
I'm going to
boys.
take a massive lesson out of this one. Did you realize that it was going to be an absolute like nightmare of conditions out there in that game? Because I put my bet on without realizing it was going to be like 200 mils of rain that day.
Yeah, I did know that there was going to be a fair bit of rain. I didn't bet on the game, but if I did like the Knights. But
Yeah,
yeah, definitely not a game I was keen to bet on because of the weather.
yeah.
But like it almost worked out for you if you got your try scorers.
Yeah, so I had the Knights head to head. I had Tawala, who did go over Best and KPP. Best did actually look like he was going to score at one point, and it's maybe inches away from doing so. But again, this bet never had a chance of getting up in that conditions, and it was a miracle it was that close.
Yeah, moral victory then, or would you say
No, I think it's a lesson to be learned, not a moral victory.
lesson to be learned? Is that a new
Lesson,
one?
yeah,
The
that
lesson
is
to be
indeed.
learned. Okay, okay.
In the next
Because
game, though, I will be taking a moral victory if that's okay.
yeah, so next game was the Rabbitohs Warriors game. I'll just quickly mention that I had the Warriors head to head at $1.87 on points bet. That one got up for myself, so pretty stoked with that result. Not really too much to say. Warriors looked way better than them.
Yeah, they blew it out of the park. They won
Yeah,
by, I believe, was it 20 something?
30
It
they
was
won by
30, yeah,
24-4.
that's right. So I had the Warriors 13 plus, and I also had DWZ any time. Prior to the game, DWZ was, of course, ruled out, so I put the money on Pompey, assuming he'd play on that right wing. And then, of course, a late change causes a certain Roger to play on that wing, and Roger goes over to score. So I think I have the right to take the moral victory there. Do you have any
Definition
good
of a
problems with that?
definition of a moral victory there. Very
I
happy
mean,
for
I
you.
said the right winger would score, did I not?
Yeah, yeah. Definition of a
That's
moral victory.
definition of moral victory.
Um, well, then the Seagulls Panthers game, probably the game that I'm sort of, yeah, like most pumped that I got that one right. Sort of went out on a limb taking the Seagulls there, especially um, after how good Penrith looked last week. But I think a lot of people were discounting the fact that, Cleary's the greatest player in the game. So without him, they're obviously going to be worse. Manly off a loss, coming back to Brookie, seemed like a slam dunk for myself, and it definitely worked out. What about yourself in this game you had going to talk to you about?
Well, I honestly thought that Cleary wouldn't be that much of a loss given that they had a bit of a humping last week themselves. So I picked Panthers 13 plus and Taruva double. I don't think Taruva went over. In fact, Panthers just didn't really look well in attack at all.
Yeah,
So, but again, like I said earlier, in games like this, you just have to love the fact that you actually get to watch some footy that doesn't really happen as you think it will. And
yeah,
I love seeing the Panthers getting humped, even if it means I'm losing money.
yeah, yeah. And DCE looking good and Tommy
Yeah,
looking
DCA
good.
looking extra handsome.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. So missed for yourself on that one. Next game, Dolphins Tigers. I didn't have a bet. Did say I think I like the Dolphins, but can't
Yeah.
claim that one. I didn't bet on it. So what about yourself?
Well, yeah, I had Dolphins 13 plus, as well as Hammer and Bostock anytime. Dolphins would end up winning by 10 and no Bostock try. So, I mean, fins down, I guess. Let's move on to the next game.
Yeah, Cowboys Titans game.
Yeah.
Cowboys won at 35-22, ended up winning by 13. No bet on this game again for myself. What about yourself?
Yeah, so I had the Cowboys at a line of negative 16.5. So I'm rather disappointed with the fact they couldn't hold on and, not keep the Titans scoreless, but stop them rampaging towards that maybe like the second half of that game. That wasn't really fun to watch from someone who's put money on the cows. But yeah, I had Felt, Taulungi, Drinkwater, Holmes, and Nanai. So I believe Felt, Taulungi, and Drinkwater all went over, but Holmes and Nanai never looked like scoring at all.
Yeah, I actually did personally put a little bit of money on Val Holmes to score any time. Um, and that didn't get up for myself. So
Yeah, what
um,
can you do?
both
So yeah,
losers on
at
that.
this point, I am 0 from 7. And
Yep.
luckily, the final game, the Raiders, they saved me. They absolutely saved me. So I had Raiders head to head, Savage and Hudson Young anytime. But what can you do? I saw Savage go over. I was cheering, and then Hudson Young took that massive break by himself, didn't back himself, and just managed to throw a ball back inside in time. But I was screaming at the television saying, "Put the ball down, run it yourself, trust yourself." Only to think, "Oh, my bet's been ruined. There is no way this guy tries again." And somehow he got the ball again in try scoring position and backed himself that time. So yeah, very lucky. Also, because at that point I had not made a single bet, I did something a bit silly and I doubled down and chased my losses. Don't do that, but somehow it actually worked out for me this time. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Think you should do that, mate. Back yourself into a corner. It's a very hard move to double down there. Uh, no, yeah, personally, I wouldn't be doing that. Keep your staking consistent, but very hard move to double down there. So you're living up to your name, and a good win to keep you in the positive this week. For myself, I had the Raiders first half, Eels second half, which obviously didn't win because the Raiders won by a lot in the end. I did sort of like that because it thought they were faders, but the Eels just didn't look up to it at all this week. So yeah, well off in that one, but at least that one was paying higher odds, so I staked lower, so I didn't lose as much.
Very true.
But that's all the games for the round. Let's talk Supercoach ranks. So
Yep.
yeah, from that round, my rank ended up being I moved into 23,476, up around 32,000 ranks, which is a pretty crazy move up. And I ranked in the top 4% last round with a 1,212. What about yourself?
I'm amazed that there are 4% more people with a higher score than 12-12. I thought that was a pretty good score for that round.
Yeah,
We had a
definitely.
lot
But
of
there was a few players that did well, so if you pick the right ones,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I had an absolute stinker. I am now 41st, 588. So 400, sorry, I am now 41,588. I am down 20,000 positions. That's because I had a 930 total this week, and I had a pretty unlucky week. But look, these things happen. For example, I vice captain Dom Young, -14. Flegler went off early with an injury. I actually brought him in last week as well. Terrell May played 20 minutes, which we won't go into any further detail about because hopefully it will never happen again. And then, of course, I have a bunch of Eels players. Eels are poo at the moment, and Eisen Puth had a pretty bad performance for me. So again, I could justify probably having at least a 1,000 score, if not for how that Roosters game went. But you got to roll with the punches sometimes. We'll be better back next week, and we'll keep on going.
Yeah, definitely some unlucky scores for players with people like your Youngs, your Teddies, your Liam Henrys, players like that. So happy that I was on the luckier side of things this week. Let's jump into our best bets for the week. My number one best bet for the round is the Warriors -5.5. I jumped on that one early. That one's gone out to 6.5 now. That's because, yeah, I got on before team lists were announced. And that one was in my spreadsheet early, along with a few other bets. So that's just another reason that you should be following along with the spreadsheet every day, especially the day of and before team list, because I'll often get better prices on those 2 days. But yeah, I would still take the Warriors -6.5, but luckily I got them at the -5.5. What about yourself?
Yeah, so I've actually got 3 bets this week because I saw 2 that are extra juicy, and I just had to get them. First up, in the Wasby Manly game, the line is only 41.5, and I think they're going to absolutely decimate that. If you can get on, it's $1.87, and just hope for some attacking footy, which I think we'll see that day. And then other than that, Raiders at 13 plus. That's 220 on its own. But if you add Shillett, Savage, and Timokor, who are all in massive try scoring form at the moment, you get $10.77. So those are my 3 best bets.
Yeah, nice. So we'll jump into our trades as well.
Yep.
For myself, I ended up going Val Holmes instead of Manu last round, which is pretty annoying because Manu went over 100. And even though Val did go at 93, I think Manu went at 108 and he's going to be playing fullback this week. So a bit frustrating. But, you know, can't complain too much in the scheme of things. Val Holmes is still a player that you're going to want to hold for most of the season. This week, I'm going to go Latrell Mitchell to Ryan Pappenhausen in the fullback position as Latrell's out. I did actually plan on trading out Latrell this week to Pappy anyway. But yeah, the move's been forced for myself. And then the other trade, I'm going to go probably to a peaky to Schiller. Schiller with the minus 170 break even or
Yeah,
170
something
break even.
insane. He's going to go up by the max amount, but the only problem with him is, do you think he gets dropped from the team if and when Albert Hopewate comes back, or do
Yeah,
you think his burn is going to keep him out for a bit longer? Because he was meant to come back last round, but that just never happened.
yeah. I'll talk more about why I prefer Schiller in the why I like Schiller in the actual Raiders game when we get to that.
Yep.
And then obviously that Chevy Stewart's in the team as well, so why I prefer Schiller to like a Chevy Stewart, and why I'm sort of why I am making that trade. I'll talk about that in that game there. But what are your trades for this round?
Look, this is going to sound a bit insane, but I had 600k saved up last week, and I wanted to bolster my center wing position. So I've gone 3 trades all at center wing. First up, I traded out Brown to go to Val Holmes. He's probably peaked in value, but I feel like I'm missing him out of him at this point. I did this by moving Ethan Strange up to 5'8". Again, I don't know. I think I'm going to play him this round as well, Ethan Strange, just because I think the Raiders are going to dominate. And then we've got Burbo, who's out of my team now. I think he's not going to really do much anymore. I'm going from Burbo to Hammer. Again, Hammer, very handsome looking fella at the moment. I think he's got some points in him. And then I am going, again, forced through my own silliness, even though I just brought him in recently. I'm going Dom Young to Schiller. Try to save some money there.
Yeah, fair enough. Those seem like good trades to myself. I'd be going to a lot of the similar players. Uh, Perhaps not Hammer, but Holmes and Schiller, I think, are safe bets. Um, let's jump into the each game now. First game, game of the round, Knights versus the
Easy game of the
Roosters.
round.
Massive Thursday night clash in Newcastle. A few big outs for this one, mostly in the Roosters team. Obviously, from the last game, you've got Dom Young, Teddy, and Walker all out. Um, and yeah, so for yourself, how do you think their team is affected in this game, the Roosters?
Well, you've lost 2 members of your spine, and plus the guy who's doing half of like your massive run meters. So I think they're going to be seriously affected by this. Teddy alone, his experience that brings to that team, he's back in attacking form as well. I think it's going to be a massive loss for the Roosters.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. That'll sort of like lead into my best bet of the game later on, which I know I normally say I never bet on the Knights, but I will sort of justify as to why I am betting on this game. In terms of super coach relevancy, obviously, if you have like a Dom Young, you got to trade him out. He's someone we can look at because that negative score will stay in his rolling average for a few weeks. So he's someone we can look at in, 4 or 5 weeks' time when his price bottoms out. Um, Kalen Ponga, you're still an owner and a consistent captainer, and
Yep,
I'm
I
very jealous.
feel. Well, Callum Ponga is the only bloke who's going to consistently score points for Newcastle at this stage, as in not Supercoach points, but points. I think you'd be silly to take away a player of that caliber. If I also know the moment I don't captain him, he's going to go even higher than I currently have him. Than he's currently scored for me. So I'm just kind of scared to take the captaincy off him. Do you kind of see where I'm coming from with that, or would you rather switch your captain depending on who you think he's going to play that week well?
Yeah, I think he's the number one or number two traded in target this week, and that's for a reason. He's been unreal.
Indeed.
The Knights probably have the best 6 round run after this, especially considering probably the Roosters was going to be their hardest game or one of their hardest games in the next 6 weeks. And now the Roosters are missing all their players, so it doesn't seem like as hard of a game. So definitely can understand him being a highly sought after trade in. Um, the reason I'm not going in myself is the price is obviously higher than Pappenhausen, so a bit harder to get to. And I just think the Storm, as much as I love the Knights, I think the Storm team's going to be better, so they're going to produce more points. But there's definitely a lot of risk in Pappenhausen. I definitely do like, oh, ideally, the two fullbacks that I would want would be Ponga, Pappenhausen, but a bit difficult for me to do that right now. But yeah, definitely a big fan of Ponga captain, probably vice captain if you have another option that you can decently captain. Obviously, it's the first game of the round, but like you could easily straight captain. I'm probably going to straight captain Pappy, and my vice captain will be like KPP or someone that's like I'm never going to loop. So don't mind a straight captain
Fair enough.
on Ponga.
Fair enough.
Um, for the Knights as well, Dylan Lucas in the back row.
Yeah,
Is
so
there someone that
he's.
interested you?
I was actually seriously considering him, but the problem with him is we don't know how long Frizzell is out for. He's got that second row spot on the right lockdown until Frizz is back, but how long is that? I
Yep.
mean, what's he currently valued at? 400 and something thousand, like I think 480
Yeah, that
from
sounds
memory.
right to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, sorry, what is it?
Um, 512 actually, because he went out,
512.
he went up a little bit.
Still not too bad, but the problem with him is that he's not guaranteed that spot, and you've got no certainty as to when Frizzell's going to come back. Knowing Newcastle historically, we don't like to tell whatever is. We like to say how injured people actually are.
Yep.
Again, I brought this up before, but Adam Elliott was meant to be returning that week for about 5 weeks in a row last season. So I just think it's a bit too risky, to be honest. But I'd love to have him in my team, but I don't think it's worth that risk when Frizzell could be back any week.
Yeah, yeah, I'll have to agree with you there. Yeah, even if you know Rizal is out for like 6 weeks, maybe when Lucas, uh, when he's back, Lucas will go to the bench and get reduced minutes and lose money, which is not great. So at best, maybe you're getting in for 5 or 6 weeks, and you have to trade him out for not that much money made. So yeah, I can't really see him as a trade-in option. At least if you're going someone cheaper and you have to trade them out in like 4 or 5 weeks, they're going to make a lot more money. But at that awkward 500K price
Yeah,
point, I don't love him myself.
indeed.
Um, that's probably mostly like the Knights. There's some interesting things about how the Knights are playing. KPP is still doing well, which you're pretty stoked about. Jaden Brayley might become an option in the future, but probably not for now.
Yeah,
Um,
I was actually considering bringing Brayley in this week. Then I had a look, and he's only scored 33 points last week.
yeah,
He's nowhere near worth it now, given his, again, like you've gone into the rolling averages. He's going to be remain around that 350K price for a while.
yeah,
So until he's playing consistent minutes consistently well, I don't think he's an option.
yeah, one to watch. We'll jump
Yeah.
into the Roosters team. Joey Manu, obviously the big one. He got a 108, I think, on last weekend. Would he be someone you consider trading in?
Yeah, look, I don't really know with Joey Manu. Again, I did notice that last time he played fullback, he ran for about 312 meters. So absolutely insane stats with that. Again, with Joey Manu, I don't know if he's getting much attack every other game. It seems like he tends to score high, score low, score high, score low. It doesn't seem like he's too consistent in that regard. Would you agree with that, or
I would
not quite?
disagree with that. I would say when playing fullback, Joey Manu is the best super coach fullback in the comp.
Okay.
He averaged last season 82, I think, at fullback, and previous seasons even higher, which is ridiculous. Like he's an absolute freak at fullback. Um, if I wish I had him, I wish I did trade him last round with knowing that he's playing fullback now, and if I had the money to get him or like was moving towards a player of that caliber, I'd definitely be trading in. I'd definitely trade him in over like a hammer that you're trading in yourself this round.
So,
Uh,
sorry, do you think that means that Teddy's going to be out for a couple more weeks, or
so yeah, let's talk that Teddy injury. It's a concussion, right? So
yeah,
normal. concussion stand down is 11 days. Uh, Tedesco does have that re-injury risk where he's been concussed on many occasions before.
I
So
believe it's 10 times in the
yeah,
past in his career, and I think it's maybe 7 in the past 3, which is crazy.
yeah. So he could definitely miss a few weeks, which would be great for Manu's scoring. But even if he doesn't, I don't mind him at this price point in a Roosters team that I think after this week when they get a few of their boys back will be strong. Even when he moves back to center, it's not awful. And on top of that, he's not a player that's going to be playing Origin, so you can hold him throughout Origin period. So I like him as a trade in over a Val Holmes or a Hammer this week for myself, especially considering Val Holmes is now like he doesn't have that Titans fixture anymore, which I know sounds crazy. It's just one game, but yeah, it did, like definitely higher potential for a big score in it when you're playing the Titans.
Yeah, which is pretty
Um,
funny because he didn't even end up scoring that much against the Titans, did he?
he still scored a 93, which is decent.
Actually,
Like you can't really complain, but disappointing
yeah, I
for
should probably look at stats before I open my mouth.
yeah, yeah. No, but like it's
Yeah.
disappointing for what he could have been.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
he
no,
was
definitely.
putting
Yeah.
on 150
Especially
in
it's
that
odd
game.
because he didn't score a try either, which I'm surprised they didn't really go his direction that much. They kind of tended to cut him out a bit.
Oh, he ran the ball a fair bit actually. I think let me see how many times he ran the ball.
Yeah, I
So
should probably preface this by saying that we were all pretty pissed when this game was on. I
yeah.
barely remember much of it.
Um, he had 24 points in hit ups over 8 meters and 2 points in hit ups under 8 meters.
Yeah,
So what's that? 14 runs. So that's pretty. You
it's pretty
take
good.
that. You can't. That's not.
Yeah,
They're not missing him there. That's about his average on other games as well. So he still performed well. You can't complain too much about Val Holmes. But yeah, definitely as a trade-in target this week as a premium center wing, my number one would be Joey Manu.
fair enough.
Let's move on from Manu. Uh, uh, Gussie Crichton in the
Yeah,
back row.
yeah.
Is he someone that interests you?
Look, I really haven't thought about him too much, to be honest. I haven't really paid attention to him playing at all either.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you want to explain to me why I should be considering him as a buy-in target?
I mean, previous like performance in Supercoach, obviously not sort of recent years, but when he was like back in the day, like 2 or 3 years ago, when he was an absolute gun, he was killing at 414. I would take him every day of the week. He scored an 83 on the weekend, starting back row. He gets through a mountain of work. Uh, just for that, he's definitely an option you can consider. Um, if he keeps that spot and keeps minutes, he's definitely a player you want to look to. It's just really difficult with the Roosters rotation
Yeah.
there
Yeah,
to know what's going to happen.
the Roosters probably the strangest rotation outside of the Raiders, to be honest, in my opinion. So
Well,
those two forwards I'm kind of hesitant in actually picking up myself. But again, if there's consistency, there should be no issue with that. But
yeah, I think
yeah,
it's less that it's a strange rotation, more that they're just super stacked
yeah,
in the forwards there, so it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen. But I don't mind Gus Crichton as a trade in if you need a second row around that price point. He's probably someone I would look to.
yeah,
Um, but because yeah, like high potential for big scores, scored an 83 on the weekend in the playing the same position, and I think he's a player that they'll go to. And I think the Roosters are a better team this year than they have been previous years, even though I like the Knights this week. Yeah, I still like him as a trade-in.
fair
Anyone
enough.
else notable for yourself?
No, I think that's we've covered all the main talking points in that, all the important players.
Yeah, let's talk bets in the game
Yep.
for yourself.
So I think the Knights dominate this one, especially with those key outs. The Knights attack looks on form, especially in the rain, which is bizarre. So I'm going Knights 13 plus, Pong, and then also something we did forget to mention was Marzu's listed at 22, so
Yeah,
he may or may not play.
yeah,
He could potentially come in late, so I'm not locking down my bet, but I'm
yeah,
saying the left winger for the Knights scores. Um,
yeah,
so I'm saying either Pong and then either Tuwala or Marzu score.
yeah,
Currently with Tuwala, that bet is at 8.25.
yeah. And also that would like Marzu being in would be a massive in like help the Knights, I think, because of how bad Jenkins has been.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. We just
but yeah,
miss Marzu's meter reading abilities.
yeah, definitely. For myself, I got the Knights -3.5 early, which, check the spreadsheet early and you'll get the same price. That was $1.98 on PointsBet in a same game multi. You can still get them at -4.5 or 5.5. I still wouldn't mind taking that, but definitely prefer the 3.5 there that I got. But yeah, still would take the minus 5.5.
Fair enough.
I like that bet because of all the outs in the Roosters team. Uh, Even though I think Joey Manu is strong at fullback, Tedesco's been good, and Connor Watson at 6 is definitely, at least from my experience watching him at the Knights and how he's played at the Roosters, definitely not a 6, even though he could be okay.
He'll
Just
he'll
seeing him
do a
play
job,
6,
but I just don't think he's a long-term solution.
him playing 6 for 80 minutes,
Yeah,
it'll be tough for them to get a victory in this one. So
yeah.
I like the Knights, even though I don't normally bet on them. Um, I like that because I got them at the better price there. Let's jump into the Storm versus the Bulldogs. Um,
Yes, there's some. I was just going to say with this game, there is some very, very odd selections.
yeah,
Notably, King, Kickout, and Tracy were all listed by Gus as being injured coming into this game.
yeah,
And apparently, he said he was going to bring up 7 New South Wales Cup players, dropped them from playing that like last week to make sure there are enough players for this game. But it seems like this Bulldogs team isn't really that injury affected, or do you think they're going to drop a bunch of players beforehand?
yeah. So it talks to my bet. It's one that I'll play on the day of the game, within an hour of the game, because exactly as you mentioned, King, Kickout, Tracy
I
could
think we're
all
missing
miss
a
this
couple
one.
others as well.
Yeah. I mean, so we'll talk the outs. Blake Taff at fullback and Kurt Mann confirmed out, as well as Harrison Edwards. I think Taff and Mann are reasonably big outs for them, especially Mann and the way he's been playing at 13 for the Bulldogs recently.
Yeah,
It
Kurt
would
Mann
look
has somehow sparked the Bulldogs' attack, which is such a bizarre thing to say.
well. He's got better ball playing than Salmon. Salmon's not really offering them
Yeah,
anything at 13, so
but
that's what Mann's been doing well there for them. But then yeah, so it's a wait and see on a lot of the Bulldogs players there. Um, let's
look,
just talk Supercoach relevancy quickly.
yeah,
These obviously with a lot of the players in the Bulldogs expected out, and how well the Storm are playing. A lot of these Storm players, I think, are going to do well. The first one being their fullback Ryan Papenhuyzen. You still hold Ryan Papenhuyzen, is that correct?
yeah. So my unless of course I have some serious injuries, my fullbacks are locked in as Ponga and Pappenhausen.
Yep,
They've been like that way since round one. I think I'm pretty lucky in that regards.
yep, definitely. Probably top two fullbacks outside of maybe Scotty Drink in the comp at the moment, Supercoach wise anyway. Um, I brought in Pappenhausen this week, and I'm probably going to straight captain him. I really like him in this fixture down in Melbourne. He didn't play that well last week, or he played okay last week, but hopefully he gets more up for this game. And who knows where the Bulldogs could end up. Their team could end up by the start of the game, and I can see him definitely picking them apart. Another player who did well last week was Jerome Hughes. Would he be someone you look at trading in?
Yeah, look, I don't really know with Jerome Hughes to be honest. I think if you have the money, I say go for him. But at the same time, surely there's better options out there. I don't know who exactly, but how much
Yeah,
is he at the moment? Like 600, 700K?
it'd be more than 6. It'd be at least 7. If you're saying there's better options, what are the better options? If he's 740 because he went up 17K, um, I don't see that as them. There's many better options. I have SJ, and SJ or Hughes, I think, are a
Yeah.
similar level. I'm lucky that I have I'm happy that I have SJ, but would be happy with Hughes as well. So definitely wouldn't complain with either of them. Uh,
Yeah, ideally, I think my end game would be Cleary and SJ, but I can see why you'd want Hughes if you already have him, especially.
yeah. I'd be probably looking at Cleary Hines, depending on if his form picks up. I've got Hines out now, so that's just one to monitor. But yeah,
Yeah,
otherwise Cleary SJ as well, just because SJ is the guy
yeah,
at the
he
at
is
the
the guy.
Wasps.
He kicks goals as well, which
Yeah,
definitely helps as well over Hughes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Hughes, I probably prefer SJ than Hughes. Um, Another player that did well on the weekend was Eli Katoa. Would he be someone that you look at trading in?
Well, again, considering him, that I'm not really too rushed regarding my second row at the moment. What's his value? Is it
He's, he, uh, he might be around that 700 as well. I'll just double check.
surely he's a bit too expensive for that
680, 681.
681.
Like he's a premium second
Yeah,
row at that price. I didn't mind him like bringing him in last week, but yeah, I'm not looking for a second row at that price. But if I was looking for a second row around that price, then yeah, he's definitely someone I could consider, especially
yeah, definitely.
Melbourne have a Melbourne
He's
have a
got
very
some
good run of games coming up as well.
yeah, he's got some very good attacking stats as well, let alone his base stats, which does help from time to time.
Yeah, yeah,
He also tends to score more than your average second rower as well, which is a pretty nice added bonus.
yeah. He's a good ball runner.
Yeah.
Joe Chan in the 18. Speaking of
Yeah, I
second
saw that.
rowers,
He played Cup last week as well. Sorry, he played Queensland Cup last week. So it
yes,
appears he may be on the outer with the club. Do you think maybe Sean Blaw's locked in that spot?
I think it looks like yeah, Blore has probably won that spot off him. So it's been annoying for owners that he's not there. He's definitely someone that could come in at some point. It's not 100% certain that it isn't injury related that he's still not playing. But Sean Blore played pretty well, unfortunately for him. So it's unlikely he gets that spot back anytime soon. So you don't need
Yeah.
to. You can get rid of Cho Chan if you want to, but you're not going to make any money. So he's not a priority trade out for myself, especially considering he's not going to be an AE there. So not a priority trade out
Yeah, I can't
at
really
the
think of
moment.
any cheapy second rowers at the moment either, so there's no real rush to get him out.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but either way, you could find like you could flip down to a center wing and stuff like that. There's things you
Yeah.
could do to get him out if you wanted to, but like for myself, there's better plays to trade out.
Yeah,
Um,
indeed.
for the Dogs, like I don't really love any of their players in this game, but Bronson Sherry's got to start. For
Yeah,
myself, I wouldn't go Sherry just because it's like I don't think his spot is 100% locked in
yeah, I
because
don't think it is. What
yeah,
isn't there?
because
Who are they missing? They're missing
Blake Wilson was ruled
Wilson.
out at
Yeah,
the beginning of the last game due to illness. I thought he was just dropped for Sherry, but I think it was due to illness. So I don't trust that Sherry's spot is 100% locked in, and I don't know how the Bulldogs are going to do in the near future, especially with a lot of their like niggling injuries there. So I don't.
yeah. I don't even know if he's guaranteed to play more than 4 or 5 games this season, to be honest. So
Yeah,
unless it's a serious injury, I don't see him playing for an extended period of games.
yeah. I'm not trading him in at the moment, but he's one to watch.
Yeah.
There with the sort of lack of good options in the 5'8" position. Is Matt Burton someone you would have considered trading in for your Dylan Brown there?
I honestly don't think I can touch Matt Burton. I think he's had a couple fluky games before, like Supercoach wise. So I do not think it's a good idea to touch him, especially in a team. Again, I can't read the Bulldogs at the moment. I think they're better than last year, but their attack seems to be incredibly up and down.
Yeah, so he was the highest score of the round with 147.
Yeah,
Do you think
I
that
think it's a bit
147
of
was
a
just a
fluke.
fluke? Or
I think it's a fluke.
yeah, I think he got a lot of those points before any of those Roosters players went down as well. So I can definitely see him as an option. If you had him, you'd be cheering. Um, for myself, I've gone cheap in the 5'8", so just the way I'm trying to play strategically, I wouldn't go to him. But I don't mind it. If you've got a Dylan Brown and you want to move to someone, I don't hate him as an option. He won't
Fair
score
enough.
well this round, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't hate him as an option. I think he is playing a lot better in this team. And yeah, a 147, I don't think is necessarily a fluke, but I prefer playing the 5'8" position in a bit of a different style. I've got Strange and Galvin in there at the moment, and I'm happy to keep them there. So
Fair
he's
enough.
not trading for myself just because I don't want to go to that sort of price point, but he seems like the best player around that sort of price point for mine.
Yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from. Yeah, then we also have Viliami Kickout. How do you feel about him?
I mean, Kickout's just doing like Kick out is that sort of player. Like he just will just run over players all
He
the
is the
time.
man. Yeah, I agree with you with that.
Yeah, but
Um,
he's not going to base. So in a game like this where you don't think they'll necessarily do well, um, Kickout might not be the guy that you want to go to. He had a 70 on the weekend and he looked like he was just running over everyone for fun. He looked like he was playing out of his skin.
he only scored 70.
Yeah, he had a 70,
Yeah,
but I think he
ridiculous.
came off. So
True. Yeah, that's
it's
another
not sure.
big concern with him as well. How injured is he? Because just
Yeah,
remember, the doggies had a problem last year. As it turns out, they were playing a lot of players injured, and a
yeah,
lot of players, particularly in Kiraz, wasn't playing at his full ability, which kind of hampered their, just footy playing abilities. But again, I'd probably hold off and kick out until we know how injured he actually is.
yeah. And definitely probably not kick out at that price point of 551K. I think he'll have a few bad games and drop back down again. And then he's a player you can maybe look at like a 400K or something like that,
Yeah,
450K maybe even.
yeah, fair
Um,
enough. So what are your
Sam
thoughts here?
Hughes, we'll just touch on quickly as well because he got a 73 or a 72 on the weekend. Um, do you have Sam Hughes?
No, I don't, and I feel like I'm kind of missing out a little bit by having him. Sorry, by not having him. I feel like at this point it's probably a bit too late for me to get on the Hughes train. What do you think so, or do you
Yeah,
think
I
it's
agree.
better
I
to go
wouldn't
for
be
him?
trading him in. I do have him luckily, and he'll get a few price rises. Then I'll trade him out. But I'm stoked that he got a 70 on the weekend, and then I can find a way to get rid of him because I can see him easily going 15 again this weekend, especially if he's
Yeah,
off the bench and not playing many minutes. If he gets a start again, he could go all right. He could get a 40, 50, but yeah, no. In all likelihood, I see him going back to that bench rotation 20, 30. But if you've got him, just watch him and see what he gets up to.
yeah, definitely. So what's your big bet for this round? Sorry, big bet for this game, should I say?
Yeah, so for myself, it's one of those where you're going to wait for final teams. But if the team seems to be similar to what it is, so the Bulldogs team still looks okay, I'm going to take a Storm 1 to 22. I'll put up exactly how to do this type of bet, but you can do it on most bookies where you take an alternate line of plus 22 and a half, and you take of the Bulldogs plus 22 and a half, and then you take the Storm to win as well. So it's sort of like an artificial 1 to 22 Storm there, and that'll be around $1.90, $1.95 in odds. What about yourself?
Well, I'm going with the exact opposite strategy because I think a bunch of Bulldogs players do drop out, and I want to get the odds as good as possible. So I'm going 13 plus for Storm. Then I also have Katoa, Warbrick, and Pappy to score anytime. That is totaling at $12.
Yeah, right. So I guess it'll both of us be dependent on the final teams, but yeah, so
Yeah,
sort of a little bit different bets there.
yeah, it's kind
Um,
of funny. We've got the exact opposite reasoning for why we're putting our bets on.
yeah. But like with myself as well, if the line doesn't move very much and all these players for the Bulldogs are out, I probably just won't bet on the game. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's that. Next game is the Broncos versus the Dolphins. Big outs for both teams in this game. For the Broncos, primarily Reynolds and Mariner. And then, well, obviously, they've got a few players that are still out. And then for the Dolphins, Carfusi and Farnworth, and maybe Flegler, you're the player in your team there. You want
Yeah,
to just talk
I'm not
about
sure
Flegler?
what's happening with Flegel. I've heard he might be okay to play, so they have
Yeah,
named him to start, but I wouldn't be locking him in your Supercoach team this week. He only
yeah.
played 20 minutes last, keep in mind.
That was due to injury. Definitely not a trade in my opinion. What would you do with him if he's ruled out last minute?
I'd hold on to him if we know it's not going to be an injury for longer than about 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Otherwise, trade him out and try to find some other middling, well, not middling, but a slightly above average front and forward.
yeah. Yeah, no, I would be holding if it was just a week, find a player to play. Might have to play a
Yeah,
Sam Hughes or someone like that. But yeah, if it's just like a week, you just hold him. It's unfortunate that he got injured
win some,
like
lose some.
that. Um, Reece Walsh back
Yeah,
in
can
the
you believe
team.
he's back already? That's incredible. He's back like 3 weeks early.
Yeah, so that's this is another one of those games where it's for me a wait and see until game day to see what happens.
Yeah,
Um,
there's no way that he's going to be able to play with those stitches and and the fractured cheekbone under his eye. I really don't think he's going to play, but if he wears headgear, I guess if he's brave enough, he can. I guess he's just hoping
I
he
don't
doesn't
even
get
know
whacked
if
in
the
the head
headgear
again.
would cover the stitches or anything. So I don't know if
Yeah.
that would do anything, but yeah, like it's weird that he's playing. Tristan Sailor obviously has been good while he's been there. If he plays, that rules out Tristan Sailor as a super coach option at all. But if he's playing, would you consider bringing in Walsh as a bit of a pod move?
Yeah, I think it's a bit too early to bring in Walsh, to be honest. What was his score from the game he got injured? Wasn't it like very low, like maybe
Really
four
matter.
or five?
He got injured.
It's
Like
single
there's not
digits,
much.
right?
Yeah, there's not much relevance in that though because he got injured. I guess it'll bring his score down.
Yeah, I just don't see him going high in this game if he's coming back from an injury like what he did. Given it's a facial injury, I can kind of see, as we've seen with a lot of players, particularly players from memory like Regan Campbell Gillard, I'm kind of worried he'll come back and he'll be a bit scared to engage the line. And so I really want to see him play before I see him as any kind of genuine opportunity there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, he did have a one, so I guess that is someone you could look at maybe in a couple of weeks. But yeah, definitely probably not a trading this week for mine, because you don't know how fit he's gonna like if he's gonna be
Yeah.
100% with that injury.
Yeah, mentally,
Definitely one to
physically,
watch.
is he 100% there? It's something that I'm kind of, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, and also his break even would be ridiculously high as well, wouldn't it?
Probably yeah, 137.
Yeah, yeah. So
Um,
definitely don't bring him in this week then.
yeah, we'll move on from Walsh. Paddy Carrigan, you brought in one of
Yeah,
your.
so Paddy Carrigan is kind of the kind of bloke you just want to kind of set and forget in your team. He just takes a decent amount of hit ups, takes the tackles. That's all I really want from him. I know he's not going to score tries, so it's effectively all in base stat, and that's awesome.
Yeah, for myself, still not a player that I would look at because he is just like a consistent score his average, right? You trade him in and he's got exactly his average. Like he
Yeah,
got it.
week in, week
His
out,
average
always
before
does.
this round was 65 and he scored a 65. Like he'll get a 65 every week.
Yeah,
I'd much rather take a player that's at a lower price point and they're going to average a lot higher than their price point. Where
I,
like
I
that's just not going to happen with Carrigan.
yeah, I understand that, but wouldn't you at least want one or two locks or keys in your team that are just consistently going to score that score? Just in case the world ends or something like that, like we saw with the Dom Young, who got negative 14. Don't you want at least two players, that are going to score a certain score?
Well, a Dom Young negative 14 is sort of unavoidable, but a Dom Young 25, say,
Yeah,
like is probably more what you're talking to, where
yeah,
players can go have a big range, but you can still bring in players that base high or have a decent base, and then with some like decent attacking upside, that are going to out average their scores. That if just maybe had a like they've done a Reece Walsh and they've scored a one last week, and then they're at a really good price, and that's why you bring them in instead of a Carrigan, you just bring in that's guaranteed to make his price. Even if a Carrigan, for example, scored a two this week because of an injury, and then he comes back and gets his minutes managed, and then eventually he goes back to scoring 65s. You could think of bringing him in then because he's going to score a lot higher than what he's priced at. But for me,
yeah.
I'm not bringing in a player that's
Okay, I see where you're coming from there.
yeah, I'm not bringing in a
Yeah,
player that's well below, or sorry, that's scoring at what they're priced at.
yeah.
But yeah, he's done fine for you. So like it'll be consistent points for you
I'm
each
just
week.
happy to have him in my team. I know he's valued 690K at this time, so if you don't have him, probably don't get him. Unless like you're like me and you wanted to rock in your team, then
Yeah,
yeah, if you want to rock, go for it. If not, like the head said, don't bother touching him.
yeah, yeah. Not too much else relevant. Jaden Hunt's not been like the cheap that we'd hoped he'd be in for the Broncos there. For the Dolphins, Jack Bostock still scoring well. If you were a Jack Bostock owner, what would you be doing?
I think hold him. I'm not sure if I want to play him this game, but he'll continue to make money for at least the next couple, I think, especially if he's getting fed balls from the likes of Hammer. He didn't last week, but I think he'll probably get a couple more at some point. So just hold him for now. He's getting decent base stats as well. So yeah, hold.
Yeah, hold for now. He's got a 10 break even, so he's going to make a little bit more money still, but definitely one to one that you need to be super careful that you're not holding these type of players way past what they're worth. He's not the type of player that you want to hold the whole season, so you need to sell him at the right point. Hold for this week, but watch careful watch. Check what their fixtures are looking like if he's a player that you still want to keep. I'm sort of forced to play him this week due to some injuries, but yeah, he's not someone that you need to play this week against a reasonably strong Broncos team.
Yeah, definitely.
Not too much else super coach relevant. Some people bought in Jerry Marshall King and he was solid. Not a player that I'm looking at just because I've got Appy and Grant set in there.
Yeah, I brought in again this week. I brought in Hammer, but I only did that because he's got a pretty low break even. I don't think he's going to score that highly, but it's just easy to get on board now before he becomes a bit more expensive later on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally like hammering this week. I'm going to go an expensive player. I'd rather get an expensive player that's going to get a big score this week. I don't see Hammer going massive. Um, let's talk bets.
Yeah,
You want to talk
yes.
yours
So
first?
I'm probably going with one of the shortest bets of all time. At least for me, I'm just going flat out Broncos and Jesse Arthur's anytime at 237.
Yeah, for myself, I've got the Broncos 1-12. That's another one of those ones. Flegler expected out. Walshy may not play, so it's one of those ones to wait and see. But with the current teams, if it maintains the way it is, I'll play the Broncos 1-12. You get that around $3.30. The Dolphins has been good this year. Don't think the outs that are currently out will affect them that much. Like obviously Farnworth's a good footy player, but I think outside backs have less of an effect. So I still think they do well without him there. But the Broncos are an elite team, and they had a tough loss last week. So I think they get the win, and I think they get the win in a tight one.
Yeah,
There. The next game is the Warriors versus the Sea Eagles. Big out of Ruben Garrick for them.
yeah, that's going to be pretty annoying for their goal kicking, but I assume that DC will be taking over.
Well, DCE was kicking when Ruben
Yeah,
Garrett was out last week, so yeah, it would be
yeah,
most likely DCE unless they've got someone else I haven't thought of. Both teams off a pretty big win. They both beat their Lions last week, so both teams looking good. Just super coach wise, there's a lot of those hyphenated last name players that seem to be doing very well. A
yeah.
CNK,
There's a
a
few.
DWZ, a RTS.
RTS, TMM. Yeah, it really seems like the Wars might be one of the more relevant Supercoach teams this year. It's
Yeah,
really
and
interesting to see. Yeah,
I like the Wires a lot at this point in time due to their fixtures. They have one of the better runs of fixtures coming up. I would say the top three runs of fixtures are probably like the Knights, the Warriors, the Storm. So yeah, definitely like targeting the Warriors. Uh, CNK brings a lot to their attack. I don't think CNK is one you can target though at his price
yeah.
point.
I
What do you
think
think?
he's not worth it. There are just so many other better options at fullback at the moment that I think he's just kind of just pushed to the side, really.
Yeah, and sort of what you mentioned there as well. He's just a fullback, whereas in previous years where he's been centre wing fullback dual, he's just a fullback. So I don't think he's one you can target with the level of quality in the fullback position at the moment.
And also keep in mind this is only his second game back this year. So if he absolutely has a go at it, you can just wait until next week and trade him in if you really want to.
Yep, exactly. DWZ and RTS talking outside backs. Would either of them be one you want to target?
I think maybe I'd consider RTS at this stage. It seems like to me I need to get back on board with a lot of what a lot of other people have. I think there's a
Mm,
bit too many pods in my team, which may be costing me some points in the long run.
yep.
But again, I'm not too fussed about not having either of those. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've still got RTS, and he unfortunately hasn't gone the super mega heights that uh, we might have expected that he would, but there'll be a week where he goes
Yeah.
a 120. So I'm happy to have him, and he's hasn't really had a bad score yet. So very happy to have him in there. DWZ's another player that you could look at targeting around that 700K price point. As I have mentioned already, I do prefer a Joey Manu, but DWZ might not be a bad option as well with their run of fixtures. So
And
he's someone you can look at.
and it seems like they do really want to score down that right edge as well, which is going to definitely benefit DWZ in the long run as well.
Yeah. There was
Yeah.
some stat posted about DWZ scores with Chance in the team, and it's like 45 to 74 or something. So he's
Well,
way better with Chance in the team.
Wow.
So yeah, that'll definitely help in there.
Yeah, totally unrelated, but Greg Marzhew scored 24 tries in 26 games.
Why did that come up?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What?
Yeah, Greg Miles is a gun, mate.
I'm saying like for a considerable stat, that's how much of one edge was targeted at Newcastle.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
DWZ had like a better strike rate. He had a try a game strike rate last year. He
Yeah.
just didn't play very many games.
Yeah. True.
Um,
Yeah, so
Murray Martin.
Tamari Martin is someone I'm actually very much considering bringing in.
Yep.
But again, he got 96 last week, didn't he?
Yep. 98
Yeah,
actually.
98. Okay, fair enough. Even better than I thought. Yeah, so I don't think we're going to see Metcalf come back anytime soon. That leg injury looked really bad.
Yep.
Um, yeah, bloody Frizzell absolutely destroying his leg.
Yep.
If Metcalf's out for more than say 5 weeks, I think he's going to be a lock at the end of probably next week. Don't you think?
Yeah. So tomorrow Martin is a watch. Like he got a 98, which is great, but SJ is their main attacking weapon in this team. So it's a wait and see. If he gets another decent score, even like a 50, he's probably someone that I target bringing in. I move Strange down next week, trade out a center wing, and have Tamari Martin and Galvin as my 5'8s, but definitely not a player to trade in this week. Even though he had that big score, that's his first game of the season. So definitely a watch and see. But yeah, not a trade in for this week, but watch and see for next week. Let's talk Lord and Savior Sean Johnson. Stoked with that trade. Probably the best trade or one of the best trades I've made this season so far. So very happy
Lucky, lucky, lucky.
myself.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely a player you could look at targeting if you need someone in the half position, especially with their run of fixtures. I wouldn't necessarily be trading out like a Nico at this point if you have Nico or a Cleary, but he's the next best thing.
yeah.
If you have
He's
another
goal kicking again, which is so
goal
good for his
kicking,
points.
I'm absolutely stoked with that trading from last round.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely, for me, he is my end game half with Cleary, but it's going to take some time to get there, so I'm not too stressed about getting him away.
Yeah. Uh, Warriors back rowers.
Yeah, so
Jackson Ford, I've been talking a lot of smack on, saying I don't really rate him, or yeah, I don't really rate him at that price point at least.
he's
And
still
he's still,
scoring consistent points, though, and
yeah,
he seems to be getting like snagging tries pretty decently. So I don't
yeah.
think he's a bad get, but I'm kind of worried if the Warriors' attack dries up, then his base stats kind of are going to get exposed a bit. Do you agree with that sentiment, or?
Yeah, like they've got good fixtures, so he's not an awful trade in, but like he's not an amazing football player. He's not a 700K football player.
Yeah.
I'm taking an Eli Katoa over him every day of the week. Um, I just can't see him at this price point. Even though he keeps churning out these scores, just not a player that I can get around at this price point. I'm happy to admit that I was wrong in that. He's still been doing well at 700K. I don't think he's a player you'd want to be trading him. But if you have him, you're happy. He's been doing consistently pretty well.
Yeah, the other forward as well would be Mitch Barnett. Do you have any thoughts on him?
I don't really like him, even though he's been doing well, like playing footy. And as an NRL player, I do like him. But
But do you like him as a bloke?
as a bloke, nah, I hate him because he left the Knights. But as a super coach player, I was talking more. Probably not a player that I'm looking to target. His scores are pretty consistent around that 60 mark. Um, and he's priced around that 60 mark. So it's another Paddy Carrigan-esque player
Yeah.
where he's just gonna score what he's priced at.
Yeah, fair enough. And there's always with Barnett and Ford, there seems to be this always weird risk of them potentially losing minutes for some reason. It seems like their forward rotation's not necessarily locked down. I'm
Yeah,
not
it was just due to
entirely.
some injuries and stuff that they were
Yeah,
rotating like that.
it seems to have always been that way. Well, since at least Barnett got there last year, same with Ford. I don't know why, but
I think Barnett will get sort of consistent minutes, but I'm not
yeah,
looking at him either way.
yeah. So
Let's talk Manly. Let's talk Urbos, Turbo, Burbo. Um,
Gerbo, any value in Gerbo this year,
no,
or do you think he's a bit of a
Turbo we
slow
don't need to
still?
talk about. Tom Trbojevic went 100 plus. I think he's one of the highest trade-in players this week. He's the ninth highest trade-in player this week at the moment. I wouldn't be trading him in though. I have him luckily, and he did well for myself. Um, but and I did say like even before this round, I wasn't like if I had to trade a Trell or a Turbo before the last round, I would have traded out Latrell because I think Turbo like I saw the Manly turnaround before it happened, and see Manly still going okay. So Turbo's going to be fine, but not a trade in for mine with the Knights, the Storm having better fixtures. So I'd rather a Ponga or a Pappenhausen.
Yeah, I think that 100 may have been a bit of a trap. He's been pretty meddling in the game prior. Like we did see Turbo's absolute brilliance in that game, but is he consistent the way that we've seen Ponga and to a lesser extent Pappenhausen points wise so far? That's my big question with Turbo.
Yeah, I think he's been good. He's just had a few bad games, but yeah, I agree with you. I'd rather those two.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry, I was just going to say I think the two end game fullbacks at this stage should still be Ponga and Pappenhausen. So if you got them, lucky.
yeah. Ben Trbojevic in the center position.
Mm.
For myself, he looked poor, I think, defensively in the center position on the weekend. So it's hard to know exactly what he's going to produce for them.
Yeah.
Uh, would he be someone you look at if you're still holding? Would he be someone you look at playing, or are you happy to
Well,
keep him
I
rested
traded him out this round, so
this round?
yeah, I traded him out this round.
Yeah,
I just don't really know with Burbo. I think what happened was he got a bit of a fluke score round one,
yeah.
and everyone got a bit excited about him. I think he did better in center points wise than he did in second row the past couple of weeks.
I think he had a try or a try assist or something.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I'm sure he's going to have more attacking stats, but I don't really know if he's going to keep that center position. I just don't think he's that good a player, to be honest. I think we've been tricked.
yeah, yeah. Like you can hold him. I'm holding him for now just because he's not really doing too much harm. It's a weird one. I probably wouldn't look at playing. I'm super short in my last sort of position, so it's going to be have to be like a Burbo or a Salmon or a Hughes or
Yeah.
someone like that. But I might just go like a Salmon even just to get sort of a consistent 35
Like
with not much
30 points.
upside.
Fair
Uh,
enough. I in that position, I'd probably go Burbo because I think there's a higher upside, but there's
yeah,
also a lower downside. So
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So like fine, but yeah, don't need to do too much with him at the moment. Brooksy, you still have Brooksy, correct?
I still have Brooksy. Brooksy, I traded him about 2 weeks ago from memory. Kind of disappointed with the scores, especially given he didn't score that well in a Manly attacking masterclass. But I guess probably just hold him. I'm going to keep on playing him as well. But if he's consistently giving me 45 to 50 at seven, is it seven? Do I think it's 7 or 6?
You have him at
No.
7 because you trade him Cleary out for him.
Yeah,
For
true.
mine, you need to get him out to Cleary. If I was in your position, get him out to Cleary for next week.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I'm definitely trading him for Cleary. Again, a bit of a surprise. Well, I guess spoilers for next round. My two trades are going to be Galvin getting in there to save some money, and then I'm going to get Brooks to Cleary as well.
yep, yep. That's a good move in my opinion. Brooks is not someone you
Yeah,
want long term. 55 and an amazing tackling display from Manly. I think he's going to have some bad lows in there, and
yeah, definitely.
I'm not super keen on him at the price that he's at. It's just sort of doing what his price dictates. DCE went massive on the weekend. It was a milestone. Or sorry, it overtook the games record at Manly there. So he was really up for it, and in that position where they sort of needed a win against Penrith in a game they thought they could win. I think that's why he played massive, and I wouldn't be targeting him just because I think he was really, really up for that game, and that's why he did as well as he did. What about yourself? Would DCE be someone you look at in that position?
Keep in mind he's what 34, 35 as well. How many more performances like that does he have left in his career?
He's a
Um, I know
he's
he's a
still
gun,
going to
but
do well. Like
there is a difference between being a gun and being the best player on the field.
he was the best player on the field. What do you mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Basically, I don't know how much longer he can keep on performing like that. Especially, even though in the short term, I wouldn't touch him in Supercoach to be honest. But I guess if you have him, he's going to goal kick for you, so you may as well keep him for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely not trade out, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't bother with trading him in, especially with Cleary next week.
yeah,
Um, but he was unreal. He could easily be the best player on the field for many games, as he is often for Manly. His age is irrelevant. He still looks sick for them.
yeah. He
Just,
looks
I don't
quite
think he's
unwell.
as super relevant as some other players.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, let's talk betting in this game. For myself, I took the Warriors -5.5 early. As already mentioned, it's my best bet for the round. Uh, why I like this bet. The Warriors back in New Zealand, the so Manly have to travel to New Zealand. Manly also missing their best outside back in Rue and Garrick. So that I don't really love Burlow defending in the centers there, and the makeup of their outside backs in general. I'm not a massive fan of. Uh, they came off a massive win, so they're going to be less up for this game. Whereas the Warriors sort of, while it was a massive win as well, it was a win against a team that's been sort of lackluster. Whereas they would have, it was an even bigger win for Manly against Penrith there. Also for the Warriors, you've got DWZ, you've got Kurt Capewell back in the team, so their team looks even stronger. Whereas the Manly team looks a little bit weaker with Garrick out. So all of those things considered, I think I have to be on the Warriors here.
yeah. I definitely think that's a comfortable bet. Yeah, you got me thinking. Actually, do you think there might be value in so Garrick? Well, Garrick was right center. Is that correct? So,
Yeah,
yeah. So that means we've got Burbo at right center. What are your thoughts on Jackson Ford running at Burbo?
yeah, like not, not a bad option.
So,
Um, yeah, probably a shout.
yeah, look, I think he's going to go over. I just kind of had the little bells ringing in my head when you said that. But yeah, I'm going to say Jackson Ford's going to score in this game. I've got no idea how much it is because I haven't looked it up yet. Um, but yeah, my bet for this game that we spoke about prior was I think Wars are going to win. It could be close. I don't know, but I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. So I've got DWZ scoring anytime. And then I've got Sean Johnson at 8+ points because he's goal kicking. DCE 6+ points as well, assuming he's goal kicking. And then overs total points, the game at 41.5, which totals $7.
Yeah. Um, yeah, if you want to change that, we can. I'll put it on the screen now. What you've changed it to with the
Yeah,
price.
chuck in Jackson Ford for me,
Yeah,
and we'll work out what the value is in that. But I
yeah,
think
yeah,
probably I
yeah.
reckon it'll be
That'll be
about
on the
20
that'll be on the
bucks.
screen now with the updated bet.
Tell me if I'm
Um,
wrong or right.
yeah. We'll go to the Eels versus the Cowboys game, and sort of one major out is Laybutt for the Cowboys, and Chester comes in there for
Yeah,
him.
that sucks for Lay, but it sucks he did his ACL. Nothing
Yeah, yeah,
worse.
really
One of his
unfortunate for him.
breakout season.
Yeah,
Hate to see it.
yes, yeah, definitely things you hate to see there. No massive outs for the Eels, but Talangi dropped for Dejan Arzi there.
Yeah,
Uh,
I guess he didn't have that good a game at 6, but it seems a bit harsh to drop the guy.
yeah, so for mine, I'll quickly give my thoughts on Talangi and his dropping. Uh, Talangi, I think, was very good in the centers because he could just run the ball, didn't have to do too much decision making. Mitch Moses and Dylan Brown worked well because they had those different sort of roles. Dylan Brown sort of running the ball more sort of classical six, and I think Talangi is very similar to Dylan Brown, which is why I don't think they were as good in the 6 and 7 together.
I definitely agree. And keep in mind as well, he was the 6 in the team that got smashed. So
Yeah,
it's pretty hard to gain some points when you're the 6.
yeah, yeah. And then also so Dejan Arzi, I think when he's played with Dylan Brown, they've been decent. So I think that combination will be a lot better for them. But I still like a Blaze Talangi, especially if
Yeah.
it was like a Moses and Dylan Brown out and Talangi. I'd prefer Talangi in the halves then
Yeah.
as a ball runner. And I wouldn't mind seeing him in the centers again at another point in the year. So I think he's still a hold in your super coach. But yeah, it's unfortunate that he misses out considering he would have made a bit more money there.
Yeah, no, speaking of big outs as well, did you notice that Sivo's been dropped?
Yeah, I don't know what the story with that is, but
Well, he's an absolute defensive liability, but I assume that they'd keep the guy who's essentially selling half the tickets to the Eels stadium in the team, given they love to chant SIVO back and forth. So
yeah, I don't think they're picking players based on whether they're bringing people through the door. But yeah, it's an interesting one, especially he's got a lot of attacking upside for them. But
yeah, definitely. I'm surprised as well they've kept Morgan Harper instead of bringing Blaze Talangi back to the centers. I don't think Morgan's been that good this year, and
yeah,
I'd rather them blood the new kid.
yeah, I'd rather Talangi there as well. But I think it's more just like Talangi hasn't been playing well the last couple of games in
Morgan
the
Harper has
six.
not played well for the past couple of years.
Yeah, but he's actually been okay for them playing for playing for Para. He's been all right.
I still think he's
Um,
a bit of a turnstile.
yeah, look, I would rather Talangi in the center, but I don't think they're going to play Talangi because he's been playing poorly in the sixth, and that doesn't
He had one game there though. That's the problem.
do.
In
But
his center games, he was decent.
he had 2 games in six.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but he wasn't playing well there, so that's what like I can understand the mindset of that after
Yeah,
you're like, well, I have to drop him. I think the wisest thing to do is to move him to center, but you know they chose to drop him, and that it is what it is. But yeah, I like the makeup of the para team a lot better this week, regardless. Um, in terms of the uh, so yeah, you sold Brown. I can get behind that. He hasn't looked amazing at
he's
740.
losing value as well. I think I've lost about 60, 70K, and I don't want that to slide further. I
Yep.
think his break even again is in the six figures. That's not the three figures for this game.
Yep.
So I think he's just going to keep on sliding, which is not fun.
Yeah, I luckily traded him out a few weeks ago, and yeah,
Yeah.
he just hasn't looked up to it as much this year. Let's talk Cowboys players. Scotty Drink, Val Holmes,
Yeah, so I brought in
doing their
Val
thing.
Holmes this week. I think it's probably a good shout to get him in, given he's like one of the more, he's the premium center wing at this moment. Would you say that?
Yeah, he's probably the best center wing at the moment. I'll
Yeah.
talk to why I wouldn't bring him in this week, and I wouldn't bring in Scotty Drink either. As I've already mentioned, I like Pappy and Ponga as the two best fullbacks in the comp right now. So Drink is not in that too, obviously. He's probably the third best. Um, I wouldn't bring them in for a couple of reasons. I think the Cowboys, as I've sort of already mentioned in previous videos, are sort of pretenders this year. They're happy to put away good teams, and even though they can easily score points, they can have really low scores. I think they're going to start to come into some more difficult fixtures, and players like your Val Holmes will still be consistently doing okay because they have goal kicking, but a player like a Scotty Drink isn't going to do as well. That doesn't mean that he's not going to have weeks where he goes 120. I just think the consistency isn't there that a Pappenhausen or a Ponga will give you. So I'm not interested in bringing in either of those two assets, and that sort of
Yeah.
speaks to my best bet as well, which we can jump into if you want.
So I was just going to bring up something else as well. You've got one Eels player, and that is the Lussick that didn't break Lachlan Ilias' leg. What would you do with him at the moment,
Joey Lustig.
Joey? Yeah.
I mean, I luckily traded him out to Appy a few weeks ago. It it's tough. I think he'll keep scoring okay.
Yeah,
I don't
because
really think tracking him too much.
he's
Yeah,
actually started to decline in value over the past few weeks.
yeah. Look, he's probably someone you have to trade out then. If he's not doing amazing, like you don't need him. Yeah, like he hasn't been putting together decent scores, but Para haven't been doing too well. Look, if you have
Yeah,
him, I'm
that's the
probably
problem.
keeping him this week.
Yeah.
His break even is 53. He's not going to lose a lot of value. I don't mind keeping him this week because I'll talk to my best bet as to why I don't mind keeping this week.
Yep, no worries.
So my best bet for the round is ideally it'll be the Eels at plus 4.5 or plus 5.5. They're at 2.5 at the moment, so you can get a plus 5.5 around $1.75. But I'll take a 2.5 or a 3.5 at like $1.98 or something like that closer to the game if I can't get a 4.5 or a 5.5, but ideally a 4.5 or 5.5. I like this bet for a number of reasons. Like I've already mentioned, I like the makeup of the Eels team now. I much prefer these two halves in there in sort of dictating the team. I think Arzu will take a lot of pressure off Dylan Brown there. Dylan Brown would have felt a lot of pressure with the young kid Talangi in there with him. Um, I also like that Cartwright is back for them. Um, it's crazy to be saying that
What's
now,
he back?
considering
Did
yeah,
he
he's
break
back.
his ribs last week?
He's listed this week, so
Okay, but he was listed last week as well, so probably keep an eye out on that one.
yeah, that's another one. I haven't put this bet on yet, so it's
Yeah.
another one to wait and see. But yeah, Cartwright. It's crazy to think that he brings a lot to the team, considering it was a fringy like a couple of years ago. But
I was an absolute plotter for years.
yeah. So I like him back in. It's also at Combank. Eels have a really good record at Combank, and Eels have won 2 games, 2 of 5 games. So they'll be sort of a lot more desperate for a win here. Um, and yeah, Cowboys traveling. It's going to be difficult. And yeah, just like the Eels a lot in this spot. What about yourself?
Yeah, well, I think this is time for a side bet because I think the Cows win 13 plus.
Yeah,
Do you want to do head to head on this one?
we'll take Eels 3.5 or something.
Sure, we'll do Eels 3.5.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think Cows, they're in good form at the moment. Their attacks rolling through. I think we might get another scene of the Parramatta Eels. So I'm going Cows 13 plus. Drinky, Tuolungi, they're in try scoring form. And I think we'll add Holmes there, who didn't score last week, but he looks fire. Those three together as anytime try scorer at 18.25.
yeah, nice. Yeah, so I bet on the Eels plus 3.5. You'll take the Cowboys minus 3.5.
Yep.
We'll see how that one goes there. The Rabbitohs versus the Sharks next. Big out, obviously, being Latrell.
And did you see as well that Cookie got dropped as well?
Yeah, Cookie dropped as well, which is interesting. I don't know if that's the best decision from mine. I think Cookie's actually been okay. If you
Yeah, I thought
actually
it's one of the
watch,
better players.
yeah, if you actually watch Rabbitohs games, there's many instances where Cookie pokes his head through and there's just no one backing him up at
Yeah,
all. So Cookie easily could be doing Cookie things like of previous years if he had a bit of support in that team, but he
there's just
doesn't.
no one there
So
for him. It's just that he's like maybe slightly bit slower, so he can't do it on his own anymore. But he just needs that one person to run support with him.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I'll give a quick preview. My bet for this game would be the Sharks minus 6.5. It's because of uh, those outs. A lot of people are saying, put a line through the Rabbitohs. They're no good for the rest of the year. I'm not the sort of person that would ever put a line through any team, because like, they're professional rugby league teams. Like they're going to show up every week and try to win every game. But in this particular spot, the fact that they've dropped Cookie, the fact that Latrell's out, I really like the Sharks at a minus 6.5, which is a better line than the market. But I'll talk to my best bet a little bit later. Let's talk Supercoach relevant players, or we can talk to that Jai Gray first, which I think. Did you have any interest in a Jai Gray? I guess probably not for this round at least.
not definitely not this round. This is his debut game, right? So we've got 2 games to watch him decide.
Yeah,
Same with the other big debutant in this game, Kyle Ero as well.
not a debutant.
Sorry,
Second
what?
game.
Yeah, true. Second game. I probably like absolutely butchered his name as well.
That's it. No, it's just Kyle Lero.
Actually, no, yeah, Ero did score like 60, 70 last week, didn't he?
He scored 97.
Actually, yeah, and they didn't play last week either because they had the bye.
Yep.
Yeah,
Real good. Real
yeah,
good for
real
him.
good, buddy. At least I do that one off the top of my head without to look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really keen to see how he does as well this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nico, you said you're kind of keen on Nico at the moment, or
Yeah. Sorry, we'll just mention like Bray and Ero both to just watch and wait
yes,
and see because they've played less than 2 games. Nico Hines, I think he's someone we need to talk about. Um, for mine, I was interested in trading him out a few weeks ago because so he had that 94, right? And like he looked really good in that game, but how many games are they going to have when they're going to score, 40 points? Some, definitely they're a strong attacking team. But if they're doing that, you want Nico to be going like a 150. And I just don't think with Trindle there that he's going to be going as big. But in saying that, if I still held him, I'm not trading him out. I'm definitely
yeah. In
possibly
my
holding.
opinion, it seems like a lot of the attack is going through Trindle and Kennedy rather than Nico. So I'm
Yeah,
still not really sure that Nico's playing to his full potential yet. But
yeah,
once those three click together, I'm sure Nico will get much higher scores than he currently is.
Yeah. Definitely keep a close eye on Nico, and if you think his scores are sort of turning around, he can be someone to trade back in there. But definitely someone to watch. Anyone else Supercoach relevant for yourself?
Not really. Oh, actually, Hazleton.
Yeah, I was going to say,
He's
how's Hazleton going?
he's doing all right. I think he's starting again. I need to double check that.
He
But
is. He's funny.
he's always been a short-term turnaround. As soon as he moves back to the bench, he's out of my team.
Yeah,
I just
still
thought I could gain like a quick 150K off him.
-7 break even. You got a 51 last round, which is pretty
Exactly.
solid. So
He's also scores a lot of tries for a front rower as well, which is really funny to see.
I think,
He's like the ultimate like plop, like pick up and plop down bloke. So if he scores this week, I will be absolutely cheering.
yeah, I literally have no idea how many tries he's scored in his career, but yeah, maybe
He
he's a
seems to
big
come off the
body.
bench and score so many.
Yeah, he's a big body. He's scored 4 tries.
Okay, so maybe I'm just is my like mind? Is it the fact I've just seen like maybe 6 Sharks games and he's scored in all of them?
Yeah, to be fair, he hasn't played played many games and scored
Yeah,
4 tries. He's played like 20 something games and scored 4 tries. So that's a pretty decent actually turnaround for a front rower, but not a
true.
massive try scorer. Can't really go off that small of a sample size.
Yeah,
Um,
and my poor memory as well.
yeah, let's jump into bets.
Yep.
I already
So,
mentioned I got Sharks
yeah,
-6.5, which is why I leave out at $1.90 at the time, which, going to plug the spreadsheet again. Get on the spreadsheet, follow it daily, and you get the better line because that one's out to 8.5 now everywhere. Probably still take the 8.5 with the outs in their team. Although I do think like a dry grade could go really well. He looked really good in the trials. Like you can't trust that, especially like with no Cook there, and I don't know
yeah,
what's going to happen with the team.
yeah. No, even then, Walker and for whatever reason, Walker and yeah, Walker could just show up out of nowhere like he tends to do from time to time. So, but again, I'm not really sure it's going to happen.
Yeah,
So yeah, I've got Sharks 13 plus. I think the pain will come to the Bunnies, and they'll wish they were never brought in for the 2002 NRL season. I'm going to say Sharks 13 plus. Ronaldo and Iro anytime try scorers, and I'm going to say Hines 10 plus points. So I don't think he scores, but I think he converts 5 goals, and that is at 11.75.
nice,
What's
nice.
so funny about that?
Just funny that you expect him to kick 5 goals but not score.
Yeah, well, I think it's gonna be a lot of points, a
Fair
lot of
enough.
tries.
Um, Tigers Dragons, big outs Bateman and both Finus. The Tigers obviously still missing Galvin there. Dragons not missing too many players. I'm trying to think if they're missing anyone notable. Doesn't look like it. They're
Not
starting
really.
Laurie and Bellin off the bench. So Dragons team's looking good for the Dragons. Obviously, they're not the best team in the comp. Um, in terms of Supercoach relevancy, uh, yeah, if it's unfortunate if you're held like a Samuel Afinu that he's out. Um, I'm not sure how long his injury is, but I'd probably be holding if it wasn't very long. Uh, Justin Olam in the centers there got a 35 or something. Um,
Yeah,
he's
I
going to
think
have
we
those scores.
I think we spoke about this last week, where we basically said that he's scoring high now, but we don't see it happening forever. And I think this is kind of evidence of that, where his floor isn't that good. He's set up. Yeah,
He's not going to be a consistent high scorer. So
yeah,
while a lot of people would have brought him in, he's not someone you need to target. There's better options cheaper, I think, and there's better
definitely.
options at a higher price point. So just go like try and go up to like a Manu or down to like a Schiller for mine.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, Appy Coruscant had that injury, but managed to play on. So hopefully he's one that does get long minutes from myself at least as an owner. But Jake Simpkin on the bench could take minutes off him, so that could
Yeah,
decrease his score.
yeah.
Uh,
I kind of hope that does happen as someone who doesn't have him. I would
yeah,
love Appy in my team, but
yeah,
I can't see the value in getting him at what 660K.
yeah. So definitely
Yeah,
not a trade in, but definitely not a trade out either. He's just a
yeah,
definite hold Appy.
yeah, definitely.
And then you've got Eisenhuth still.
Yeah, Eisenputh had one poor performance, but I will keep him in my
He's,
team for now.
he
For
scored okay. Like,
47.
didn't he score okay?
He scored 47. Could be better.
Well, that's fine. He got his that was at his price point. His break even still 20. So for mine, I would sell him next week or the week after. Once he's sort of maxed out at like a
Yeah.
500k. I can't
Yeah, it's
see.
definite value there.
Yeah, I can't
What are
see
your
it being.
thoughts on Zachary Lomax? Do you think
Uh,
it's do you think even now he's scoring decent, even with all this dissent around him, that he could be value at I think it's 700, 750?
it's still the exact same situation as last week for myself. You still don't know what's happening with him. He could leave the club at any point. He could
Yeah.
get frustrated and stop
He could
playing.
stop goal kicking, which is a very serious risk.
Yeah, like it's still too high of a risky play, especially at that price point for mine, to risk a trade in. But exactly the same thing as last week. If you have him, you're
Yeah.
cheering that he's doing well, but not a trade in for mine.
Yeah, no worries.
That's pretty much everyone's super coach relevant.
Yeah, definitely a
Um,
quick one there. So let's move on to the bets.
yeah,
Who do you have for this game?
yeah. So I'll do it the same sort of thing as the Eels game. I'll ideally take the Dragons at a +3.5. They're currently at a +1.5. The 3.5 at $1.77 right now, but the 1.5 is the line. If they can push, if that 3.5 can push above $1.80, I'll take that. Why I like, well, so firstly, why I don't like the Tigers. Bateman's a massive out for them. He got through a lot of work in the back row for them, an important player. Um, as crazy as it sounds, Galvin actually is a huge out for them, and they seem to perform worse without him there. As well as having both the finers out, just decreases the depth in their squad. And they have to play a Simpkin instead of having like they've been trying to play a sixth sort of player off the bench in that interchange position. So who knows what Simpkin's going to do for them? So their team's a lot worse. The Dragons team looks pretty fully fit. They're even playing strong players with Laurie and Bellin off the bench. So I'm happy to take the Dragons in this one, especially considering the Dragons are off a loss. Um, and it's not far to travel for the Dragons as well. They're just going to Campbelltown. So yeah, definitely keen on the Dragons at +3.5 in this one. What about yourself?
Look, I'm not really certain which team I think is going to win this one, but I think there's going to be a lot of points in outside backs. So I'm going to go a multi three try scorers in Ravalava, Olam, and Lomax at $12.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, don't really have anything for that other than the fact I think it's going to be points out wide, which
Fair
should
enough.
be pretty fun to watch.
Fair enough. Last game of the round is Raiders Titans. Bit of a boring game for mine, especially betting wise, but Supercoach, there's a few relevant players. So Rapana out brings in Chevy Stewart to the fullback position, and
Yeah,
then
did you
Hotspur
think as
out as
well
well.
that we possibly would have seen the last of Rapana when he went off?
Yeah, I thought he was
I,
out for it. So I've got Rapana is actually confirmed to miss 6 to 8 weeks now with his injury.
really? How'd you get
Um,
back on the field?
Yeah, I have no idea. It's so weird. Apparently, he went off, and the trainers were saying like, "Oh, we can't figure out what's going on with him, but he's going back on." Like, he's just a freak. Like, I don't know how he managed to
Yeah,
play through the game, but
it almost looked like he dislocated his knee and came back on the field. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. The NRL physio, I'm pretty sure said 6 to 8 weeks. I'll double check that now.
yeah,
Um,
that's.
but yeah,
But
out
either
for an
way,
extended period.
I thought he
Um,
just absolutely blown out his knee, and that was his last game ever, kind of thing. Given he's what 35 this year, he hasn't confirmed it, but I'd be surprised if he plays next.
yeah. So Chevy Stewart, was he someone that you were interested in?
Look, I really don't know what's going to happen with the Raiders outside backs at this stage. Keep in mind they still have Albert Hopewate coming back as well.
Yeah,
He's currently out due to barbecuing too hard.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so I don't know what they're going to do. They could possibly also move Sebastian Chris back to fullback at some point. Same with Xavier Savage, who was their fullback that they kicked CNK out of the club for years
yeah.
and years ago, which is really strange to think about. Yeah, I don't know if he has this a position on lockdown. and I don't know if he'll possibly be moved out of the shuffle to find a place for Albert Hopewate when he comes back as well.
Yeah.
So if he plays 2 games and he's scheduled for a third, I'll very much think about it. But for now, it's a wait and watch. What do you think?
Yeah. Didn't you say Chevy Stewart trade in for Latrell?
No, what are you
Okay.
talking about?
Okay. Um, but
Okay, well,
yeah, Chevy Stewart's in the center wing as well, so definitely wouldn't bring him in at fullback regardless. Um, yeah, but it definitely wait and see because it's his first game. I guess probably should talk to James Schiller because I'm bringing James Schiller in. So the
yeah,
logic of Schiller, he's been playing well, so unlikely to lose the spot when he's been playing well, right? Got a negative 117 break even. So the worst case, he goes maybe a 30 this week. Obviously, like a Dom Young went negative 14 last week, so he could obviously go negative. But a realistic worst case is he goes about a 30, and he makes what 100, 150k, 120k.
he could still get sent off and would go up 100k. That's how good a position is. He's a must buy right now.
Yeah, so well, the argument against him is that he could come straight back out of that team when Albert Hopoate is fit. But worst case is he gets 120k. I think likely they're playing the Titans. I think likely he scores well. He scores a 70 or something, and he makes 200k, and then he keeps his spot because he played well, and then he goes on to make more money. So that's why I like a James Schiller in this position, especially over someone like a Chevy Stewart. I think it's more likely that the first game of Chevy Stewart drops out to a Seb Chris moving to fullback and an Albert Hopper White coming back into center because he did play center at the beginning of the year. So I think it's likely that Schiller keeps his position considering he's been playing well. And even if he doesn't, worst case, in making 150,
Oh
120k.
yeah, definitely. There's some easy money to be made,
Yeah.
and like you said, I think all the Raiders are performing really well in their outside backs. Do you
Yeah.
think Sebastian Chris is probably the worst performing so far?
Possibly. I don't. I'd have to think about that, but yeah, it's not Schiller, it's not Timoko, it's
It's
not Savage.
definitely
Yeah,
not
so it would
Savage.
be
Yeah,
Chris. It would
yeah,
be
which
Chris.
is kind of
Just
crazy to think about. He's having a decent season, but
yeah,
I
just by nature of Savage and
yeah
all the rest of them all doing well.
yeah
Speaking of Savage, he had a massive score on the weekend himself. He's a player that I wish I had at the beginning of the season, but unfortunately I don't think he isn't a trade-in option as much as like a Schiller is just at the 472k versus at half that in a 238k and a Schiller I'd much rather. Schiller, but he's been looking really good. He could
yeah.
even be
He
someone
looks
that you target later in the year if he falls down again, because I think every time he touches the ball, something happens. So,
Yeah, he
uh,
looks really good, and I'm
yeah,
just so lucky that I made so much money off Raiders outside backs this year.
yeah,
We'll go into further detail about him, but Schiller going to make money off Savage, Strange. It just seems like there's a gold mine for this team.
yeah, yeah, and hopefully Chevy Stewart in a couple of weeks if he keeps his spot and Albert Hopewadi doesn't come back in.
Exactly.
Speaking of strained, I've got him in my sixth position.
Yeah. Did
Uh,
you start him last week?
I did luckily, but
You
my
lucky fella. I didn't think he had it in him. Did not think he had that dog.
well, I had to move him to six, so I had to start him regardless. But he's probably someone I would have looked at playing, and definitely someone I would be playing over a lot of players this week
Yeah,
against the
definitely.
Titans.
He's playing the Titans.
Yeah,
If you can, I'm loading up on Raiders players. I know it sounds a bit silly, but I think this game could be a bit of a blowout. Well, I said so in my best bet.
yeah, yeah. Play all your Raiders players that you can. Speaking of Raiders players, Morgan Smithies at a
69.
70, yeah, 69.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't play him last week either, and it actually ended up biting me in our comp where I lost by 3 points because he scored 69 in the last game.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty stoked I played him as well. And yeah, definitely just a hold. Probably not a trading because I think his minutes were a little bit inflated last week. But yeah, glad I'm having and holding him. Um, I don't know if there's too much Supercoach relevant from the Titans. Uh,
David
I
Fafita, would you wait a little bit to bring him in, or would
definitely
you
wait. I think his
wait?
price could fall, but he does look good. But
Yeah,
yeah, definitely wait. Furmore, a lot of people had it's just a hold because he got that good score, but I'd be looking to trade out Furmore in a couple of weeks as well, probably.
yeah,
But
definitely.
he's a watch to
Yeah,
see. Let's talk. bets in this one. For myself, I don't have a bet on this game. It's actually the only game of the round that I don't have a bet
Surely
on.
just take the Raiders 13 plus. It's easy money.
Yeah, what's the line actually? Probably around that. Well, actually, a -8.5 is not a massive line. If I was going to play it, I'd probably play the -8.5, but they're never going to like they're never going to give you any value to go against the Titans with the form they're in. So just avoid. I don't see any value in playing either team in this one.
Fair enough. And as my best, this is my best bet of the round. For me to find value in this, to actually want to bet on it, I have to kind of combine a bunch of try scorers together, which I think they're all in try scoring form. So I'm not too worried about that. But I'm going Raiders 13 plus, Schiller, Savage, and Timoko, or anytime try scorer at 10.77.
Yeah, nice. I think that sort of sums us up for the round. Uh, Leave a comment below about the side bets because we're still going on with those ones.
Yeah,
Obviously, the side bet for this round, as mentioned, is the Eels. I've got the Eels +3.5. Hayden's got the Cowboys -3.5. But yeah, leave a comment. Leave a comment about any changes you'd like to see as well. Like, comment, subscribe. Anything to add from yourself, mate?
no, just thanks for watching if you got this far, and please stop asking us to kiss on the internet.
Yep. Thank you. We'll go fuck ourselves.